Hello and welcome to Doni Jones Live. I am your host, Doni Jones, and we have an awesome show today. You know, every week I'm trying to bring you somebody that's making a difference in people's lives, and not only is the woman that we have on the show today making a difference in someone's lives in America, she's making a difference in people's lives around the world, more specifically, children's lives around the world. And I'm talking about Dr. Sherry Sutton. How are you doing?
I am good. I'm good.
So nice to see you, and thank you for having us, and thank you for being on the show. So I got so excited about your story because one of the people that I work with was like, you've got to hear this woman's story because she's a teacher. And not only is she a teacher, she's a difference maker. She's going to Ghana. She's going into the community, making a difference and teaching kids English and teaching kids different values and just doing what she can to make this world a better place. I just wanted to meet you just because I think it's a great opportunity, but I'd love for the world to get the chance to meet you. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Sherry Sutton. I've been teaching for absolutely forever. I teach English as a second language here in Douglas County.
Yeah.
I teach students who are in K through 5th grade, and I absolutely love it. Absolutely.
Yes. And how long have you been doing that?
I've been here in Douglas County for 10 years, but I've been teaching for over 20.
Okay, well, see, you don't look like you only know to be teaching nothing over 20.
I will take that.
But you know, the thing I like about you is not that you're not just a teacher, which teachers are amazing, but you go the extra mile. You know, you're one of those teachers that you see a need and you try to fill that need. I know I only got a long time, but I also heard that at one point, you also were a teacher, you were the soccer coach, you were a bus driver. Talk to us a little bit about how that happened.
That's right. My love happens to be in teaching students that are in the greatest need. So oftentimes that leads me to teaching at Title I schools where the poverty level is 80, 88, 90%. But when you teach in those schools, you also when you choose to teach in those schools, you also make a choice to be more than a teacher, whatever that encompasses. And while I taught at Stewart Middle School, which is right here in Douglasville as well, we had a need, number one, for someone who could teach soccer, which I didn't know how.
I was going to say, were you a soccer player?
Not at all. But since I teach English as a second language, most of my students, they didn't get into football, they didn't get into basketball, they got into soccer. And so here I had a whole crew of kids who couldn't play the sport because we didn't have a coach. So I signed up to be the coach, and you know, I gave them the best experience that they had. Most of them just wanted to get out there and have fun.
Just have fun.
So that's what I provided. The only bad thing is, at that time, we couldn't find a way to transport the students because most of their parents were at work. They didn't have that luxury of being able to get off and get them to a game at 3 o'clock. Right,
but see, not only did you find a way to transport them, you were the way. Like
that's
you went and got, like you went out and got your CDLs.
That's right.
Just so you could drive the team bus. Is that right?
That's right. Because every time, you know, you can ask teachers, but you have so much paperwork to do to ask teachers to drive them, where you have to do your insurance and all kind of liability. It was so much easier for me just to go ahead and get CDL than to continue to ask for favors from different teachers and put them at risk potentially.
Absolutely.
Also, it was guaranteed, and so I had it was too many of them. I mean, our soccer team is 11 kids, so you got the boys and girls. That's 22 kids plus all the extra kids. You can't ask that many people for favors. So I
can. I'm just kidding.
So we got the CDL, and I was able to drive them back and forth. But you know, one thing leads to another because we have such a bus shortage, not just in Douglas County but all over. Then what happens is, now those same kids that you transported to the games the next week, they can't get home because we're waiting for buses to come, and sometimes they're waiting to 5 o'clock and 6 o'clock and 5:30. We're getting really a lot better at that.
Are you driving the bus for the soccer and for back and forth to school?
Yes.
And teaching?
Yes.
Okay, now you got to tell us how do you juggle that? How do you juggle that?
Well, the good thing is I'm not a new teacher. I've been teaching for a while. That doesn't mean that teaching is easy. I've pretty much gotten the hang of teaching now, and I always have to have a challenge. So the next challenge is getting the CDL. I got the CDL. I drove for the soccer team, and then we still had a need, and
she filled it.
Yeah. So I drive in the morning. I drive in the end. You know, you can't teach the kids till they get there.
Right. That's right.
So
that's true.
You know, and
so you can kind of schedule that.
Yeah. I mean, you just get up in the morning, time a little bit earlier than what you normally would,
Right.
and then you park the bus right outside. Then
Oh, my goodness.
You take off one hat, put on the other hat.
Yeah.
It's great for classroom management, though, because you can say, you want me to tell your mama, and they know you mean it.
And they know you mean it, exactly, because you might see their mama.
Know
Exactly.
you mean it. They know you mean it. And then if they act up on the bus, you can keep me in for recess. You can do whatever you want.
I love it.
It's all kind of different tricks. It's actually an asset for me.
Absolutely.
Actually a blessing.
Well, you're an asset to these kids, and once again, that's the main reason why I wanted to talk with you, because I don't think teachers get the credit that they deserve, and I know you are an exceptional teacher. I would say going out and getting a CDL and driving, that's an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
But what can we do in our community to start supporting our teachers more so that people can see the sacrifices that you all make for our kids?
Right. Well, I definitely feel like it's a double-edged sword. I get so much from teaching, honestly, I do. I feel like I get probably just as much coming back as I put in.
Right.
I mean, every time I do something for my students, my kids, my parents, they do 10 times more for me. So I appreciate it. That's not what I'm looking for. It just happens to be.
You do it because it's goodness in your heart.
Yeah, the law of reciprocity. It just happens. But, I mean, stop into the schools. Stop in, ask us, even if you have just an extra hour, extra 2 hours, sometimes just making copies means a lot. Sometimes just buying a grade level, some donuts, just means a lot, because we usually put in a lot of long hours, particularly at the schools that are Title I.
Right.
We're putting in a lot of hours.
But do you also see where you're not just putting in hours, but you're also having to go in your own pocket for things that you need in the classroom?
Definitely. I mean, all the time. That's all part of it. I mean, you can tell the teachers that don't go into their pockets. You can tell.
Are you trying to call some people out? No, I'm just kidding.
You can tell, and I'm not mad at them at all. But you actually, it happens. You just have to. I mean, sometimes if it's not even, sometimes it's buying a bag of candy to help a kid get through a writing assignment. The writing assignment by itself could be too challenging, but if you put a Jolly Rancher at the end of that writing assignment, all of a sudden they got just enough endurance to get through. I know it. They got.
So at the end of this interview, do I get a Jolly Rancher?
Of course you do. I got a whole bucket over there. You can decide whatever you like.
I hear you. Now, how did you find your passion? Because it's obviously you wear so many hats, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the other things that you're doing internationally.
Right.
But this comes from someplace.
Right.
How did you decide to become a teacher, and not only a teacher, but an exceptional teacher that's involved?
Right. Well, so I remember asking my mother I actually remember being in church, and a preacher said that we all had a gift. We all had a gift, and it was unique for us. So I probably spent 3 months trying to figure out what my gift was, because I thought by him saying we all have a unique gift, I thought he meant that no one else had it. So I went around the house like trying to put my leg on my head to see if that was my gift. I went around trying to sing exceptionally well to see if that was my gift. And I just kept trying to figure out what was my gift, because I wanted to find out what it was right then. My mother said, you know what? You can't find out your gift like that. The only way you can find out your gift is find out what gives you energy. What would you do for free?
Your mom's a smart woman.
Yes. What would you do for free? And what could you do that would just make you wake up in the morning time and just ready to go? So it took me a while. I mean, I probably traveled all the careers you could find, because the challenge was being bright enough to do a couple of different things, but not passionate enough to do them all. What is it? So it took me a long time to figure out what was really my gift. And once I found out that education, children, and teaching, and humanitarian causes. Yes. And then once I figured that out, it was like, oh, okay, the sky's the limit.
You're in your zone.
That's right.
So there came a point where you had tried all these different things, and you hit your sweet spot with teaching.
That's right.
And that's a beautiful thing. And speaking of being a humanitarian, you also are a foster parent too.
Yes.
Now, how does one juggle being the soccer mom, or the soccer teacher, the bus driver, CDL bus driver, the teacher, and a foster mom?
Yeah, well, the good thing is most of these jobs can be done concurrently, That's the good thing, that they can be, they're not in isolation. They don't take you far, far away. Yeah. You can, being a teacher, I can still have my foster kids come to my school.
Right.
I'm still getting off at a certain time. Soccer season doesn't last all year, Driving a bus is scheduled, but it does require time management.
I was going to say, you make this sound easy, but I will say it sounds to me like you've got great time management skills.
Well, I won't say great, but I am doing well with it,
What's something you've got planned for your kids in the future as far as your teaching is concerned?
Well, I just submitted a grant on yesterday, and I'm really, really excited about it, and I hope I get it. It's just $4,000, but with my students, with their parents not speaking English as their first language, it's hard to get different kind of jobs. And so I wrote a grant just for us to do simple field trips. Go to a high school soccer game, go to a high school play, go to Jump and Joy, just simple things that other kids get to do all the time. And so that, that's what and I can drive them myself.
That's right, I think you can do that now. Well, here's what we're gonna do. I'd like to take a break real quick, because we gotta do what we gotta do. I'm gonna take a break real quick, and when we come back, I'd like to talk about some of the things that you're doing international. Is that all right?
That sounds wonderful.
Wonderful. Well, I look forward to seeing you in a few minutes. I look forward to seeing you in a few minutes. And we'll be right back in a few minutes.
Doni Jones Live is sponsored by Don's Tree Service. If you'd like to be a guest on the show, just send us an email at DoniJonesLive@gmail.com. That's DoniJonesLive@gmail.com.
Welcome back. I am Doni Jones, and you're watching Doni Jones Live. We are hanging out today with Dr. Sherry Sutton, and we were just finishing up a conversation where she was talking about some upcoming things and making a difference in children's lives. And I know we talked about what you're doing right now as a teacher, but one of the other things I got excited about is what you're doing internationally. Can you tell people about what you're doing internationally?
Yes. So about in March, I saw an email from the American Institute of Research and Human Development, and also with the Fulbright Scholarship. They were sending out information for people who wanted to travel to Ghana. It was a 5-week trip to Ghana.
Nice.
Where we got to look at the schools, we got to look at the culture, we got to study the language. We had lots of lecturers, probably like 15 lecturers coming in to talk to us about Ghana and to experience it. And it was a life-changing experience. We went there, we stayed in the dorms, we stayed in host places.
So you actually stayed with some of the families over there?
It was really good. It was really, really good. So, and we just got an in-depth experience, one that you couldn't get by just going there on the weekend or for a couple of days. And so from that, a lot of us have formed lifelong ties, bonds, and there's a lot of work to be done.
A lot of work. What was some of the work that you were doing there? I know you were working with the kids and you were teaching them. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So one of the projects we were working on was helping the schools, whether that be with funding as far as the infrastructure of the schools. These kids are bright. They're intelligent. They are. They have good hearts. It's just that they don't have a lot of financial support. And so the buildings that they have their instruction in, some of the buildings may need doors or siding or even just paper and pencils and
you were
books.
even telling me that we need to get funding over there to help with these projects.
Definitely.
And that the money would go to good use, because it really doesn't cost a whole lot to build a school.
No, it doesn't. I mean, on average, it probably costs about $6,500 to build a school, to have a school there, to create a school there. Yeah, not bad at all. And the amount of resources that we have that we just give away. I mean,
and
books.
we take for granted.
That's
Not only just give away, but we take them for granted.
That's right.
But something struck me when we were prior to taping, that you were telling me how the children they're there to learn. It's not about their social life. It's not about, does this person like me? It's about learning. And you said that even though we're really blessed over here, there's other ways to look at it to where they're blessed because of the way the educational system is. Can you speak to that?
This is part of the reason that I want to go back, and I plan to go back, because it's kind of like an exchange. It's definitely exchange. We have a lot of technology. We have a lot of resources. But they have a lot of communal support. They have each other. They're happy. If that makes sense. I mean,
in other words, they're happy kids, even though they have limited resources.
That's right. They're happy. They're enjoying life. They have tons of friends to talk to. So what we lack is the amount of friendship and the amount of going down the street. I probably, just walking down the street, it was probably 5-6 people saying hello to me, and that took me off guard at first. I was like, the only time I ever feel that kind of community is when I'm driving the bus, because when we drive the bus, we pass each other, we wave constantly. But there, as you're walking down the street, people are speaking to you, and they have all kind of traditions on how the younger person is supposed to speak first. So every now and then you were like, do I go first? You go first.
What if you can't quite tell.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
know?
do you go first? Do I go first? How about I make myself feel good? And I speak first?
Exactly. I'm young.
How about I just speak first and I'll just do it that way? But
Absolutely.
it's just all kind of traditions, and the family value system is so great.
But see, that's the thing that touches my heart when I do, because I got friends that travel internationally, and they said, you know, our kids over here are blessed, but they're missing something.
Oh, yeah.
They're missing the intangibles, you know, and I think it's going to make our kids a little bit, they're not as prepared to compete globally.
Right.
You know, and I think that's why we're starting to see such an influx of immigrants that are coming to this country doing real well.
Doing extremely well.
Yeah.
Doing extremely well. You know, the books that they had were very old, a lot of the books that they had, so that's another project around my classroom. Anything that I have purchased and I know that I won't ever use again, I am boxing it up and getting rid of it. It's great because as a teacher, we hoard a lot of things, you know, because we never know. But this is giving me an opportunity to bless somebody else and actually bless myself too. So,
but you got another trip coming up too that you had mentioned. What's going on with that trip?
Yeah, so next year there's a trip with the American Institute. They're actually going to be traveling back to Africa. We're going to be going to Tanzania next year.
Yay, can I go?
Yeah. Well, it's for teachers. It's actually for teachers because what they want to do is they want to sow a seed.
Absolutely.
And so they want to look at people that can create the most impact. And so most of us teachers have at least 30 students, and some of them, if you teach middle school, you could have up to 150 students. Oh, so what you want to do is you're trying to go there, see the experience, and then come back and educate as many people as you can. There's so many myths about Africa and so many myths about Ghana.
That's what I want. I was going to ask you, what are some of the myths now that you've been there? You're not going by what you saw in a magazine or a book or what you hear about in the media. What are some of the myths about Africa that you hear?
So one myth is that it's unsafe. That the government is so unreliable and unstable that if you go there, something bad might happen to you. I remember walking down a dark alley there, and I had just purchased something, and I was walking down a dark alley, and I heard these footsteps behind me, and I turned around and I screamed as loud as I could, and it was just the lady giving me my change that I had forgotten, and she looked at me like, "Where are you from?" You know, before the purchase, I looked at her like, you know. Absolutely. So it was totally safe. That was one of the big myths that I had. Another myth that I had is that that I would look so different. That somebody would be able to look at me and tell that I wasn't from there. Not at all.
Now that surprises me.
I blended.
Okay.
I absolutely blended. Now, when I started talking or when I started walking, you know, I'm walking a little different. My style is a little different. But I blended. There was no discrepancy. People couldn't tell right away that I was American. And so, I mean, that was a huge difference. I thought as soon as I got off the plane. The other difference is the weather. The weather was just like it is here. I was wearing the same clothes. I thought I would have gotten off the plane and immediately be burned or something. But the weather was the same.
Yeah. Well, as a teacher, seeing that experience in Ghana and then having your experience here, what would you say to a parent that's not sure about traveling internationally, or they know it's important but they haven't quite pulled the trigger on it yet? What would you say?
I would say do it. I would say definitely do it. I mean, do your research, and I mean, I would suggest that you would definitely travel with a group or a travel agency or something your first time. When I go back, I won't have the big entourage that we had because it was like 14, 15 teachers of us that went. But I won't have the big entourage next time. But definitely your first time, just so you can have some camaraderie, some people to talk to. But the people were so welcoming there. They want us to come. You know, they want us to come. They want us to come and visit. Just welcoming.
Awesome. And what are some goals that you have for the upcoming season with your kids or with some of the trips that you've got? What are some goals that you've got for?
Yeah, well, of course, as an ESOL teacher, I'm always trying to have as many of my students pass the access.
Hey, whoa. You got an what teacher?
I'm an ESOL, ESOL, English to students of other languages.
Okay.
So my kids, their parents don't speak English or speak limited English. And so what I always want to do is prepare them to be proficient in English. That's what I really want to do. So that's my biggest upcoming goal. And then, of course, on top of that is lots of field trips and having fun.
Enjoying. And what inspires, you're obviously inspiring to other people. What inspires you?
Oh, I think I get an inspiration every day. Honestly, I do. If it's
she's like too good to be true. You know?
I think I get it. I
Just
think
warm,
there's
fuzzy feelings.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
I think I get an inspiration every
Yeah.
day. Something, something. My foster babe, when I got her at 10 months, and she could see 70% in one eye and 30% in the other,
Yeah.
and she was pretty much deaf. She had to have surgery and everything. And so seeing her progress every day as she gets better, where she doesn't even have to wear the glasses anymore, I'm thinking, this is great. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, one last question, and then we'll kind of start to wrap it up. There is a need for teachers, and there's a need for great teachers like yourself. But you hear so many things in the media, whether it's a criticism of a teacher or they pretty much want you to be a saint, if you're a teacher.
Right.
If people are wanting to get back in the teacher profession or get into the teaching profession, I would say, what would you tell them to do?
Well, as far as personality and your sanity, it's just you have to be flexible. I mean, there's just no way you can go into this field and not be flexible and not be able to see others for who they are and the way they are without the judgment. Just who are you? How can I help you? What can make your life easier, and how can I get you through this phase of your life? If you don't have that in mind, like a servant, honestly, it's going to be very difficult.
Very difficult.
Yeah, and you're going to really hate
difficult.
this profession. But there's always room for more teachers, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for being that person, seriously, because we need more people in society that are doing what you're doing. And it's given me a serious thought to consider what my daughter said. She's like, Mom, you'd be a great foster parent.
I mean.
But I want to be there. Like, if I'm being a foster parent, I want to be there. And I look at how much I run, and then I go, am I going to be I'm going to be able to give them what I've given my girls for the last 13, 14 years.
Yeah, but you know what? Nobody's perfect.
Yeah.
I mean, no one is perfect. And I think the most important thing is that you have a good heart and that you're stable. If you can make sure.
I don't know if I'm saying no, I'm just kidding. No, I'm stable.
If you can make sure that they had a place
little
to
ADD.
stay. No, that's what I am. And you know what? I thought about getting some medicine, but if I do, then I might realize what
But
all
you
I
know
got
what's
going on.
I thought about it too, but I feel that if I just cut certain things out that I eat, if I get some exercise and I get some sleep,
You're good to go.
I'm good.
I'm telling you, I know for sure I am. But you know what? Honestly, you don't have to be a perfect parent.
You don't.
You don't.
But when you're talking about somebody else's kid, you want to just. I want to make it right.
No, because here you gonna do all this preparation, and then the one you get, you might not click with, and then you like, I did all of this for this. Oh no! But just start where you are. Start where you are, and then when you find one that clicks, it's just going to click. It's just going to be fine. And if nothing else, you'll be a bridge for somebody until it works.
And was there anything else you'd like to share with us about something coming up real quick?
Yes, if you're interested in a trip to Tanzania and you're a pre-service teacher or a current teacher, you want to contact Professor Ananobi, and his email is fredaline@att.net, or you can call him, and his phone number is 678-313-3090.
And can you spell that email address out real quick?
Yeah, it's FREDOLINE@att.net.
Good deal. And if people want to get in contact with you?
I am Sherry.Sutton@dcssga.org.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for letting us invade your classroom. We really appreciate it. And please keep doing what you're doing. And thank you for being an inspiration to me and many others.
Yay. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks. I enjoyed myself.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And thank you. Bye-bye.
And what does it mean to be in ministry? Do you have to have a degree for that? You got to go to school to work at a church? I don't ever see job postings for churches. How does that work?
That kind of makes me think about the song that you've got coming up called Packed Bags. That's an original song. You're an original artist, and there's a lot of African American women that contributed to the folk industry that don't get a chance to have their story told. So
I pack my bags, headed down the road.
Trying to figure out, what's going on with my child. But I was not, my system wasn't wasted. So had she not got me there in time enough, I would have died.
In total alignment with, but I also want her on the show because there's also some things I believe that I talk about with the LGBTQ community that I'm very liberal on, that she may not necessarily be as a liberal on, so I thought that would be a good chance for us to talk.
I'm not real good at playing the political game.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think all Democrats are right, and I don't think all Republicans are wrong.
Goodness.
Like, I really ride the middle. I am truly a Democrat in my heart, but guess what? They're not all right, and they're not all wrong.
Here, what, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, when there really is a city of Greenhaven, and we have made a difference, and we did reach out to those people.
Right.
We have a place in business, you know, and I think for a lot of people, they feel like, well, how am I going to fit in, you know?
Right.
Sometimes you got to kick the door down and make yourself fit in.
Right.
Well, that if you're married and get divorced and marry again, that's still adultery.
Right. Actually, Jesus did say that.
Yeah.
Jesus,
Well,
who
we
never,
need to talk.
Jesus who never said a thing about gay people, but I digress. Anyway.
Well, let me take that back. Men are
Yeah,
visual.
they are.
So when they meet me, they meet this. Let me get in the car with him and be like, hey!
Going to take those items and just kind of zhuzh them, my favorite word, with different accessories to give them different looks.
Okay.
In the last few years, just women, entrepreneurship has increased by 114%.
Well, you know, Donna, you don't understand. I can't do this because I'm in debt. You can always volunteer your time. You can always babysit somebody's kid. You can always make a meal for somebody and offer them a meal. There's always a way to give back. Whatever dream you have in your head, go for it. And I know that's been the theme for the last month, but it's because it's so important that you just get up and go.